record. Start recording. All right, welcome to the Halal Fantasy Football League. This is the Week 5 recap. So we got a little time to do it today, so hopefully we just get through it. When I'm actually looking at the Yahoo page, it still says it's in progress, although we just finished Monday Night Football, capping a pretty wild week of football, which was, I don't know, a lot of bizarre stuff. All of the unbeatens, like the 4-0 Eagles got knocked off, the 4-0 Bills got knocked off. Tonight was a wild Monday Night Football game. There was a crazy game in Arizona, and with Tennessee. That was the most bananas game ever. And then, so there's no undefeated teams, and then there's still like one defeated team left. So that's the Jets. But we kind of settling in. We do say like after week 4 or 5, we kind of get a sense of where the teams are, where the players are, what's legit, what was like false, what gave you a false hope, or was fool's gold in the beginning of the season. So we'll get right into it. Actually, before that, bring back the drink, just the old fashioned, just good old fashioned, made with Buffalo Trace. I think that's what I had last time too. Put some bitters in it, Angostura bitters. I also add some Feast Brothers walnut and orange bitters. My Demerara simple syrup with a grapefruit peel and a Amarena cherry. All right, let's get into it. Me versus Eric. First one. Oh wow, the original projections had us pretty close, 140 to 130, and then it ended up with me beating Eric 150 6-2 to 127 12. I think we were both. Oh no, we're not. This is the old record, right? I'm 2-2. Eric is 1-2, so I go to 3-2. Eric falls to 1-4. Quarterback head-to-head matchup: Jared Goff versus Justin Fields. Justin Fields, even though they're on a bad team, he can garbage his way to excellent fantasy points. He has 2 passing touchdowns and 32 completions. You know, playing from behind, trying to go toe-to-toe with Dallas. I don't know. Let's see the bench players. You have a backup. You have Baker Mayfield, who also did really well, 379 pass yards and 2 pass touchdowns, but he played the right guy because he outplayed him by a point. My quarterbacks were Jared Goff. I had 24.92, who's been solid offensively. He just doesn't have the running component. I do have Jackson Dart, who would have been a better play by 2 points, but I was kind of banking on a letdown. I mean, after his welcome to the NFL last week, I was expecting an adjustment, but he still did reasonably well. The wide receiver, J-Mo only did 2.9, largely a decoy. Tedroy McMillan, pretty average, 16.3. Helping Carolina actually upset Miami. That was another one of those. I mean, can you really call it an upset with Miami? I guess with how bad Carolina was, I think a lot of people were expecting Minnesota to win. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been a really solid receiver for Eric. The touchdown streak is snapped though, but he has a century amount of yards, 800, so he's still one of the best fantasy wide receivers this year. Off the bench are receivers. I have Matthew Golden, who was on the bench, and Brian Thomas Jr. had a solid night tonight, actually. This is lower than the projected, but he helped him actually pull off the upset against Kansas City. Eric had on the bench a lot of receivers. Xavier Worthy had a pretty average game as their number 1. Zay Flowers had a similar stat line. Jalen Waddle busted out, and that was a big part of that. Big part of that is because of Hill going down, right? So that's a bummer. Losing Hill last week, Jalen Waddle is de facto number 1. For the running backs have been really strong. Why does it say I got 0 projected? That doesn't even make sense. Jahmyr Gibbs, 22.5. He scored a touchdown. Omarion Hampton has been one of the best. Omarion Hampton has been one of the best running backs, although I just heard he went on IR today, so that is a bummer. On Eric's side, his starters is Kenneth Walker, 14.10, decent game. Then Woody Marks, interesting play, 7 rushes, 24 yards. The tight end matchup, a donut from Zach Ertz. Tyler Warren has been really good for me. 4 catches and a receiving touchdown. They play him like he's Taysom Hill. He's been a great find for me. Cam Scadabo has been a breakout running back for me, 24.4. Even though they lost, Tony Pollard a really good game for Tennessee, helping them win that game, upsetting Arizona in the wildness. 0.7. This Cam Little, big huge kicking game, helping them first take the lead against Kansas City. Then Kansas City came back, followed by the Trevor Lawrence tripping and touchdown. Jake Bates only had 5 points from extra points. The Detroit D, 20 points, 12.7. I don't know what it is. I thought I adjusted the scores for better, higher defense scores, but it hasn't been that high. This is actually a good score considering the amount of turnovers they had. In fact, Eric has decided not to play no defense to keep all these weapons on his bench. Some of the other guys on the bench, let's see. On Eric's side, we talked about those guys. I think his only other one is Chase Brown, who's solid running back. And then for me, we talked about BTJ and Dart, but DeMar Crawford, he's on my bench. And he has been terrible. I mean, not terrible. Trey Benson goes on is injured, so he's no longer the starter. So I replace him with DeMarcado. DeMarcado, after the week when Adonai Mitchell runs in for a touchdown and just drops the ball, touchback, wave that all off, DeMarcado does the exact same thing. What is up with these receivers? It's like I have no rooting interests for Arizona, for the Colts, other than they're my fantasy players. But I feel enrage for those fan bases, for that organization when players do stupid things like that. That essentially cost them the game, because if he scores that touchdown, the game is over. It's like a 3-score lead. Not enough time for them to come back. But they wipe that off, they get the ball back with a bunch of other shenanigans that happen. Somehow Titans like scratch and claw and steal that game. It's the wildest game ever. I don't think I've ever seen a crazier game than that in my life. But I mean, he's that bad, man. I'm willing to drop him right now. Let's see. I'll put my money where my mouth is. Can I drop him? I can't drop him yet. I have to wait until I guess the game is officially over, and it's not, so I can't. But you can for sure. They're not going to give him more playing time. He has no fantasy value anymore. All right, next up. Aaron knocks off Morgan in what ends up being a closer score than was originally projected and anticipated. Because look, as Darren mentioned, he got hit by the bye stick. Well, Brock Purdy was already out to begin with. His kicker and his defense were on a bye, and he didn't bother changing them. He would rather keep them. He had another quarterback, but he too was on a bye. So it was kind of like a scheduled loss, and yet it was still competitive. Let's see how it broke down. Geno Smith, terrible. 13.32. I think he's going to lose his job soon. You may need to find a new quarterback. Darren, he had 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, 228 passing yards. They've been bad with all the weapons they have. I mean, I guess they didn't have their 2 tight ends, but you need more from that spot. At least he outplayed Brock Purdy, who didn't even suit up. On the other side, Trey Tucker had kind of a comeback down to earth game following that 40-point blowout, bust out 2 weeks prior. Puka Nacua has a huge game. I think he is wide receiver 1 right now, and he's head and shoulders above the rest. Maybe not touchdown wise, but his receptions is insane. 10 catches, 85 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown, 29.5. His old teammate Cooper Kupp on the other side, 14.9, falling just short to Tampa Bay. Ladd McConkey finally busted out for Morgan. It has been the Quentin Johnson show, but at least Ladd finally showed up this week. Christian McCaffrey had a huge game, upsetting the Rams, right? So I think what I'm seeing with San Francisco is the same thing that happened with the Lions last year, where they had all those injuries and they're still winning in spite of the injuries. So you love to see that. That's a testament to good coaching and the players being tough-minded and just waiting until they can get some reinforcements back. Saquon Barkley has been kind of like on a down year. It kind of happens after a big, huge running back year from them. But he has been decent. This was one of the upsets, right? Denver knocked them out. This is following like all this noise about A.J. Brown complaining about catches, causing Saquon to only have six carries. They need to run the ball more. It's terrible. But he did have like this big long touchdown bomb that really makes the score respectable. Derrick Henry has been okay with the demise of the Baltimore Ravens. Javonte Williams had a huge game for Morgan, 33.8, 135 rushing yards in their dismantling of the Jets. Sam Laporta finally had his breakout game this week, helping kind of like Morgan secure this win. Right, him playing 10 points above expected kind of is that difference right there. Him having that nice touchdown grab and all those receptions. Travis Kelce busted out. They kind of neutralized each other, in fact. And then on the flex for Heat, 23.8, helping New Orleans get their first win, knocking off the Giants. Michael Pittman had a solid game too, but it was just not enough to help Morgan. And of course, he has all these donuts from the bye week. Harrison Butker only had 4. Philadelphia, the only 4.8. And then off the bench, anything notable? Keon Coleman, he had a touchdown in the Buffalo's loss. Travis Hunter had a nice catch tonight. Tyquan Thornton has been decent, even with Worthy back. Keenan Allen in the loss to Washington. That was another one that was kind of a surprise. Devontae Smith, one of the better wide receivers, but I understand benching him. But he had one of the better performances this season for a Eagles receiver. RJ Harvey, pretty mid. All right, so next, Mike B, battle of the 3-1 teams. Mike B topples Richie. Richie has had a strong team, but I guess they kind of underperformed this week. I mean, pretty average score, I guess, but Mike just overcame you. Looks like on Monday night, the Patrick Mahomes score. That must be the difference. Daniel Jones had a come back down to earth game, 21.08, but he didn't need much, right? They get the big lead, and after that, they're just throttling a team. Then that doesn't help. You know, when your game is over in the first half, then you don't need much from your quarterback the rest of the way. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, was fighting for his life, and that had a huge score for him. George Pickens turns into wide receiver 1. He kind of comes back down to earth after a huge week the prior. He had 37.4, but they didn't need much again to get this win over the Jets. Jamar Chase, watching the Lions game, this was a lot of fun. This is how, you know, a fantasy and a stud receiver is kind of like, there's, whether it's scheme proof or injury proof. This is an example of it, where like when they don't have Burrow, Jake Browning is playing like butt, and Jamar Chase just busts out for 2 of the craziest touchdowns in garbage time. So you never quit. That definitely helps them get this win. Devontae Adams, yeah, not the same Devontae Adams as before, but a pretty solid number 2. He outplays Pickens though. Jonathan Taylor, look at his huge game from Richie that kind of made this game closer than it probably was expected to be. 0.4, 3 rushing touchdowns. Rashad White, another surprise one. So scoring on these running backs, 7, 2 rushing touchdowns in this like shootout against Seattle. Hunter Henry only 7.6. Alvin Kamara decent 14.7. Spencer Schrader, I guess he gets hurt, but he got you 2 extra points, and the Seattle D only 1.6. The defense hasn't been that great. The rest of Mike's team, Deebo Samuel had a kind of a breakout game, but they fell short to... They beat the Chargers, I'm sorry. Travis Etienne also helping them get this win. Not much. Yeoman's work, 15.1. Trevion Henderson, kind of like... I was expecting more from him. He's been kind of in this middle of this running back by committee thing, and the score shows. TJ Hawkinson has a okay tight end score. Wandale kind of coming back down to earth, which is a little concerning, I guess, because with Neighbors gone for the season, Wandale is now number 1. Didn't do too much with it, and they lost to New Orleans. So hopefully they can have a get-right game next week. Chase McLaughlin had a huge game. Look at that. It must be all these field goals. 105 field goal yards. That's what he has all the points from. And then the Arizona D 8.5. I only laugh because of what happened to them, not the D. This is actually pretty respectable in our league. Off the bench, you have a bunch of buys. Buy for Bijan, buy for Josh Jacobs, buy for DJ Moore, buy for Caleb. Bucky Ewing is also out. Not much else to mention about the rest of these benches. Alright, the next game. Mike L versus Xander. And Xander finally gets his first win of the season. So, kind of the opposite. Like, the Jets are still have a donut on the season. We have no more winless teams. So, Xander gets a win this week. So, congrats to you, Xander. Jaden, 23.14. He's back and healthy again, but the score has been pretty mediocre. JSN has been an amazing pickup. I did not expect this out of him, but them moving on from DK and then handing the reins to JSN, you never know what's going to happen with that. But sure enough, JSN is now one of the top receivers in the league. Garrett Wilson, a solid game from him, 22.1, despite them losing. Kareem Hunt had a huge game. Way more than expected. Expected 10.24, 12 points over. Xavier Scott, this is an interesting play. He was projected only 4.8, and he didn't even manage to beat that, 2.8. Sure you couldn't have anybody better than that, Mike? I guess not. You have no other running backs on here. Trey McBride, decent score. Amika Ibuka, okay. Praises to you for this guy. This guy was not on my radar. Contrasting with me because I'm trying to find the best wide receivers. I got Tetero and McMillan. I got Golden. Trying to go for those first round rookies. Ibuka looks like wide receiver one of the rookies, and he's already like top 5 as a fantasy receiver. And then the situation makes a difference, right? No Godwin in the beginning of the year. Evans get hurt, and then you give him the opportunity and he seizes it. This guy's legit. So, props to you for getting Ibuka. I was hoping that would be one of my rookie wide receivers, but you have the best rookie wide receiver and consequently one of the best wide receivers of the entire draft class, fantasy draft class. So, not just rookies. Matt Gay had a big kicking game, 10.5, Minnesota D, 7. And then for Brad and Xander, AJ Brown, he had a lot more targets this time, but still only mustered up 11.8. Stephon Diggs had this big time game, revenge game against his old team, helping them knock them off. 10 catches for 156 receiving yards, good for almost 30 fantasy points. Kyron Williams is your top scorer of the day. In this loss to San Francisco, he had 8 receptions, 2 receiving touchdowns, 66 receiving yards. That's just the receive. What is he, a wide receiver? He also has rushing yards, right? 65 rushing yards, 14 attempts. So big time bell cow game from him. J.K. Dobbins, another huge game. 20 rushing attempts, 79 rush yards, and a rushing touchdown. That also helps you get that score. Dallas Goedert, a solid game with that touchdown. Jacoby Myers, only 9.8. Brandon Aubrey, a decent 8 points. And then your San Francisco D, 6.5. Off the bench, anything notable? Drake May has been solid as a real-life quarterback, but the fantasy numbers don't really bear it out. Maybe if he runs more, he's getting comparisons to Josh Allen. And congrats to them because they knocked them off. That was one of the biggest wins of the week. And then on the other end, Chuba Hubbard is out. Rashee Rice still suspended. Brandon McManus out. And then on the other side, Ricky Parasol out. Tucker Kraft on the bye. Jerry Jeudy only 4.5. And George Kittle still hurt. Still hanging on to him. I don't know. When is he due back? He missed the 4 games. He's eligible for activation during the upcoming week. But he hasn't made enough progress. Okay. So, it doesn't look like he's coming back quite yet. So, you're going to have to hang on a little bit more. Alright. Gary versus Jeremy. So, Gary edges out Jeremy. Jeremy had a respectable game even after losing his receivers. His top 2. His first rounder, Malik Neighbors. Heartbreaker last week. We didn't get to talk about it because we didn't have a recap. But we tell you now, that's just one of the breaks when you lose a first rounder. His other first rounder, CeeDee Lamb, is also hurt, but at least he can come back. Game was pretty close. Difference of 10 for Gary. Sam Darnold had a huge game in that shootout against Tampa Bay, 34.25. So funny, right? They talk about the Baker Mayfield versus Sam Darnold, and both of them are good now. And they were both on Carolina, who let them both go. And now they're struggling with Bryce Young. Just shows, sometimes quarterbacks need time to develop and they need a good situation. Nico Collins, 18.4, decent game. Chris Godwin kind of underachieved a little bit. Ashton Genty breaking out his second consecutive solid game. Let's look at this. 43.9, that was his breakout. And then this week 24, so solid from him. Another lose. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe you go start to tank, go for a quarterback this year. We'll see. Jake Ferguson, I think you have tight end 1, Gary. This is probably why you beat him, because we're not expecting this from any tight end, but he has been a touchdown machine. Look at this. Touchdown last week, touchdown 2 this week. I take that back. Just production, right? Week 2, 12 targets, 9 receptions. Week 3, 14 targets, 13 receptions. This week, the targets are down, but he carries it with touchdown. Now he has 2, so he's just been killing it. Dalton Kincaid, sorry you just got overshadowed by Ferguson, but amazing game by him. 108 receiving yards. Not enough. Maybe a touchdown would have helped him to win, but he didn't get into the end zone. QJ has been really, really good. I guess this week he's kind of trending back down a little, but on balance, this seems like to be his year. So he's been a solid draft pick for you. He hurt me in prior years. Isaiah Pacheco, only 12.9. Kicker battle, 7.3 to 8.5. And then the defense, 8.1 to 3.10. Yeah, we really got to fix that. Next year, we're definitely fixing the defense. Something else has to happen to get these scores kind of more in line with these other ones, right? I think what we're going for is kind of like the average fantasy score should be maybe around 12, 13, 14. That's what we're looking for. And I try to normalize it across all the positions. It hasn't worked for defense. Okay, on the bench for Gary, nothing. All zeros. You either have people who are hurt, people on body. And then for Jeremy, Ramondre had a huge game. If you had played him, man, I think Jeremy might have been able to steal a game. Jordan Addison over Shakir, maybe. That gets you another 3 points. And then Ramondre over Pacheco. That will get you 11 points. Jeremy could have stole the game. Just too bad it didn't happen. So congrats to Gary. Gary goes on to 3-2. Jeremy falls to 2-3. Let's go to the last game. James versus Aaron. Aaron pulls out this win, 153 to 124.52 players. Head to head for the pretty close on the quarterback front. Both losers in real life, but decent for fantasy. Josh Allen having 29.22. Jalen Hurts only 23.7. Marvin Harrison, also another guy who's been looking to turn it around. So he had finally his breakout game, 29.6, 15.8. Oh, looks like he had 20 in the first game. But he was questioned, right? Of all the Ohio State receivers, he was the one who was generational. But then you see guys like JSN going off. Miko Buko looks like a 5-year vet. And then Marvin Harrison has been, I don't know. I don't believe in karma, but, there was way back in his rookie year when he was acting like, he was pretty cocky, he wasn't towing the line of many of the other guys do, and I don't know if that rubs some shoulders with his own teammates, causing him to be a guy who didn't get that too much targets. I'm just saying, but he seemed to have been humbled, and now maybe he's turned that around. Chris Olave, 16.4, decent, helping them finally get a win. Demo had a huge game. This was the big storyline about him was going back to Cincinnati is his hometown. He's playing in front of his sister who was paralyzed a year and a half ago. First time seeing him play, and he had a big game. And the Lions were trying to help him. They drew up a play for him to throw a touchdown. So Demo has a passing touchdown and a running touchdown. So that was huge. Jordan Mason, solid game, 20.3. He is the main running back. Again, Brock Bowers is out. I don't know if you had someone on the bench. Kind of hard to replace the tight end in this league. Any league, for that matter. T. Higgins, 12.7. Okay. He wasn't a beneficiary of the garbage time point bonanza that Chase got. Tyler Loop, only 4.2. And Cincinnati D, 5.2. James, why would you play the Cincinnati against the Detroit Lions? I could have told you not to play them against them. Detroit is they're They're the number one scoring offense. And it's not close. But let's see. Maybe change your defense, because Cincinnati is just a bad team right now. All right. And then on the other side for Aaron, talked about Allen. Cortland Sutton had a really solid game, helping them knock off Philly, 21.9. 8 catches for 99 receiving yards. Darius Slayton had a pretty bad game in their loss to New Orleans. Devon A-Chain busted out even though they lost, but he did have a receiving touchdown, six catches. James Cook, this is another issue area. Maybe they needed to run him more to get a win, but they strayed away from him. Even though he's like, look how good he was. And then this week, I don't know if it's a product of them shutting him down or Buffalo getting away from him, but it coincides with the one loss they have on the season. So, I mean, that bodes well for Aaron. So maybe James Cook will be force-fed the ball more going forward. Oh, you scored Darren Waller? Good job with this one, right? This guy comes out of retirement, out of nowhere, and has been climbing up the ranks of the tight end spot, right? And then last week, he gets like 2 touchdowns. They're like, is it a fluke? And then he comes out this week, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown, another touchdown. It's like he's just getting started. So you scored on him. Here's another one you scored on. Quinshawn Judkins. He looks like a bell cow. It pains me to say, right? Ashton Genty, amazing. I have Omarion Hampton. Now I guess he's on IR. I don't know if that means he's out for 4 games or if he's out for the season. Quinshawn Judkins was the guy who no one wanted to touch because there was some legal issues surrounding him. He had no cap, but now it looks like he's got some reps under him, and now he looks dangerous. They lost to Minnesota, but it was a close game, largely thanks to him. We're playing in London. Cameron Dicker versus Tyler Loop. Dicker, decent. 7 points. Tyler Loop only 4.2. And then defense, we talked about them. But the Denver D, you knock off someone like Philly. Scores are just relatively low. Off the bench, you didn't play Justin Herbert. They did lose to Washington. So that's kind of like a down week for your quarterbacks, even though they're good. DeAndre Swift is on a bye. Penix is on a bye. Well, you have a lot of quarterbacks. Basil Tootin tonight. Smart not playing him. And for Aaron, look at that. Your quarterbacks are solid. Dak Prescott, you left most of the points with him on the bench. So that's the recap for the week. So what does that mean going forward? I think we have an idea like who is legit and who's not. Who's the surprises and who's not. I think the biggest surprises is like if you have stock in the Ravens, I feel bad for you. One of the things that I like to highlight is everyone was proclaiming the downfall of the Lions after they got smashed by Green Bay in week 1. Turns out it was greatly overstated. I think what that ended up being was Green Bay's Super Bowl, and then they caught Detroit sleeping. Turns out if you have Detroit stock, you're just fine. Some of the surprises are Colts. If you have Colts stock, good on you, man. Like, who knew Daniel Jones, who looked like he was out of the league when he was in the Giants, would come in and turn this team around? You had Jonathan Taylor. Who has Jonathan Taylor? He's like RB1 right now. It's crazy. And I can think back to when Morgan had the first overall pick and he had to pick Jonathan Taylor because of his amazing prior year, only for him to like be injured throughout the whole season. It looked like he's back to form. We start to see like the decline of other guys like DK Metcalf, AJ Brown. Those are kind of mainstays, right? That you counted on. They're just names now, and you kind of have to let them go. And then you start to see risers like Emeka Egbuka, Quinshawn Judkins. Those are guys like maybe weren't on our radars, but now they will be going forward. And yeah, it's gonna be an exciting year. So we have some pretty decent parity in terms of the standings. I think the only the team that's the weakest at the moment is Xander's own, Brad's team, Brad and Xander's team. But they pulled out a win this week, so you never know. Other than that, we don't have any undefeated teams, and everything is pretty close together. So, yeah, it's gonna go and be another fun season. So we're about a quarter to a third way through the season.